Nearly half of us who live in Toronto right now were born somewhere else outside of Canada. Me too. And if you're among this group, you may see your story reflected in a short fiction film that's playing at the Regent Park Film Festival. It's called, what an irresistible title, Where Do White People Go When the Long Weekend Comes? The Wondrous Journey of Delroy Kincaid. The film tells the story of an 8-year-old boy who moves with his grandmother from a Caribbean seaside village into a big Canadian inner city. It was written and directed by Powys Dewhurst, himself an immigrant from the Caribbean. He's with me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Give us the backstory of Delroy Kincaid, who he is, where he's from, and what he's doing on the cover of this. He's sort of looking rather confusedly out into the world around him.
A little bit. Actually, thank you for having me on this morning. The story came to me in 2007, the long weekend. I was driving with my father along the 401, and then it suddenly hit me that there were no immigrants in the traffic on either side of us. Mm-hmm. And the story just suddenly hit me there. And it was, I've been in Canada 20 years, and there was always this sort of, I think, a longing or a feeling of displacement that I could never exactly put my finger on. Because in the Caribbean we grew up and, we did all the things. We went canoeing and hiking and all these sort of things. And coming to Canada, I haven't done that once in 20 years. And it's sort of, the film is sort of reflective of the gulf between black and white Canadians, and it's not a heavy subject. I mean, it doesn't exactly blame anyone specifically, but it makes us question sort of, what is Canadian? How long does it take to become Canadian? And it's something I've struggled with for a while. I've been here for most of my life, and I still don't call myself Canadian.
We see this little boy watching in wonder as his neighbors, his white neighbors down the street and around the corner, lash a canoe to the roof of their car and disappear into where? Neverland. And it's interesting, we've discussed this actually before. There are people who arrive from other places, black people, people of color. They eat poutine, they watch hockey games, they learn the words to O Canada. Right. But when cottage season comes, this is something they have not internalized as the value in the way people who arrive before have. Right. Why is that? Because as you say, when your family was in Jamaica, they loved the great outdoors. Why haven't they discovered Algonquin Park? Why have I never seen a black person paddling a canoe in Algonquin Park?
Well, that's true. But I'm actually not from Jamaica. I grew up in Barbados and Dominica, the smaller islands. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it could be a number of reasons. I only have theories, but I don't have an answer. I think it may be maybe a safety in numbers thing. It might be familiarity with what you know. It's really hard to say. It might be maybe a fear of what is of not belonging to the larger Canadian experience. But it fascinates me because I would love to really know what the underlying reasons for that are.
I have a place out of town if you've ever liked to visit. I can make it safe for you,
I'd love to.
I want to talk, you're not a sociologist, you're a filmmaker.
Exactly.
And this is a delightful film, and it's not just delightful to me. The DVD case I'm looking at is covered with all the film festivals that have honored it. I mean, the Platinum Prize in Houston, Texas at the World Fest International Film Festival.
Right.
It's a lovely little film. It's being distributed, by the way, to schools by the National Film Board.
That's correct.
Speaking of which, Norman McLaren, the great animator.
That's right.
He used to paint on film. I don't think you've actually done this, but I just want to mention this so people can get a look at it. It's a mixed media thing. It's a film, and then overlaid in the live footage you shot are these wonderful sort of imaginings, these artistic imaginings painted in watercolor. Tell us about
Well, that was interesting because, the whole film took a lot of work, and it was done over a number of months. But I got an animator from Sheridan College, and who just graduated. And I also got a really experienced a black graphic novel artist called Ho Chi Anderson. He did Martin Luther King. He's been written up in Time magazine and so on. So I got all these people together and sort of, had them bring their genius to this film. And I really couldn't have done it without these guys sort of just believing in the project, believing in the concept of the film, and just
it's wonderful to watch. It's great to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Where does a filmmaker who creates this kind of film, as marvelous as it is and as widely recognized as it's been, it's not putting billions of dollars in your pocket. You're not going to buy that cottage up on Lake of Bays.
Exactly. Well, that's funny because, I'm thinking maybe I should start, forget about the creativity for a little while and focus on the making income, But yeah, it's just really about, the ideas that I want to put forward. And I mean, there's a certain sort of a requirement that you think of, what a black filmmaker is supposed to do. As a black filmmaker, you're supposed to do this, and tell these. And I just want to do the stories I want to do, whether it's fantasy or satire or whatever.
I mean, I was listening to the director of Precious on Go the other day. This is an incredible movie that Oprah Winfrey, among others, have sponsored. And black director, very gritty film, very amazing breakthrough. I mean, does this open doors, the success of a small film like this? Does it move you to the next stage, or is it just accepted for what it is and that's where it stops?
Probably a little bit of both. For one thing, it qualifies for a Genie nomination, which we're pushing for. Sort of a long shot, but it's got a lot of supporters behind it, as well as. It has opened a few doors for me over the last 2 years, and continues to. I shot in Kenya a few months ago. I was fortunate to, get a gig in Kenya, and I was selected as the Emergent 20 for the Real World Film Festival, also a few months back. So, I do have some projects planned for and I do want to expand on that idea. You can't really get into everything in the 8 minutes.
Yep.
But I'd like to do a longer sort of project.
Tell me about it after our 8-minute interview is over.
Right.
Is it, by the way, on the NFB film site? Can it be watched on the NFB? Do you know if they're streaming it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, I don't believe you can stream it. But they do plan on distributing it through the schools.
Yep.
And you can see it. It's been in a number of festivals, and you can also see it this Saturday at the Regent Park Film Festival.
Absolutely. That's at Nelson Mandela Public School this weekend.
That's correct.
Where we were, Nelson Mandela Park. Regent
Park,
Park Public School. And it's going to be there this weekend. Powys Dewhurst is the writer and director of Where Do White People Go When the Long Weekend Comes? The Wondrous Journey of Delroy.